Picture the American West, we see this: a solitary rider against a limitless horizon, a landscape conquered by rugged individualism, endless opportunity, and the barrel of a six-shooter. But in November of 1962, a woman named Bea Cook Schwammel sat down at her desk in San Antonio to write a letter. She was trying to piece together her family's history, asking her mother about their pioneer roots. Her mother's response was always the same: "Sister, I don't remember." Bea's grandparents, Silas Wilson Edward Boyd and Sara Ann Adams, lived as dirt farmers. They were part of the massive, unglamorous workforce that actually populated the frontier. Surviving the post-Civil War landscape required calloused hands and constant motion. You survived it by moving dirt, raising cattle, and outrunning starvation. Following the Boyds' documented paper trail strips away the Hollywood gloss. Their ledger of births, land deeds, and failed migrations offers a precise mechanical view of how American expansion actually worked. In 1870s Texas, dirt was the only currency that mattered. If you didn't own arable land, your family simply did not eat. Securing a plot was a mandatory survival strategy. This map shows the borders of Lampasas County, Texas. Silas and Sara married on October 3, 1875, and 6 years later, in May 1881, they achieved the critical milestone for any agrarian family. They purchased 114 acres of property right here. Once you had the land, you needed the labor to work it. Agrarian economics dictated a massive family was a financial necessity. Between 1876 and 1888, Sara gave birth to John, Matilda, Eliza, James, twins Scott and Maggie, and Joel, 7 children in 12 years. 7 additional mouths to feed placed an immense immediate strain on whatever crops and livestock those 114 acres could support. Every calorie harvested had to outpace the calories consumed by 9 growing bodies. These children were born into a workforce. Their hands were required to clear brush, tend cattle, and pull crops. Without them, the homestead would fail entirely. By 1893, the allure of the Oklahoma land rushes swept through Texas. The federal government was opening up millions of acres. For a massive family scraping by on a finite plot, the promise of cheap, expansive territory was a desperate magnetic pull. The logistics of this migration were staggering. In late 1893, the Boyds packed up their entire lives: cows, horses, chickens, household goods, and 7 children, and joined the chaotic, sprawling wagon camps pushing north toward Marietta, Oklahoma. Moving a working farm across state lines in the 19th century meant driving heavy livestock over hostile, unforgiving terrain, while keeping your family fed on whatever provisions you could carry. The physical toll was absolute, but the gamble failed. As Bea's letter bluntly records, Grandpa Silas did not live there long. Oklahoma was, in her words, not a land of plenty. The frontier had broken its promise. Facing starvation, they packed the wagons again and retreated back to Texas. By July 1895, they were still on the road. The older children had to do a lot of walking, trailing alongside the heavy wagons for hundreds of miles, step by grueling step. Manifest destiny, the 19th century doctrine that American expansion westward was inevitable, implies a triumphant march. The Boyds' 1895 retreat proves that the pioneer experience was frequently defined by crop failure, empty pockets, and a desperate crawl back to where you started. Back in Texas, the Boyds resigned themselves to the stationary, hardscrabble life of farming in Williamson and Lampasas counties. The migrations were over. Now they just had to live. Everyday survival was visceral and bloody. You didn't go to a market for meat. You raised the animal, boiled the water, and butchered it in your yard, just as Silas is doing here in this 1910 photograph. True pioneer resilience was a matter of enduring endless, brutal, and repetitive daily chores. Decades of that relentless labor wore them down. Sara passed away in August of 1920. Silas lived on through the Great Depression, finally passing away in December of 1942 at the age of 86. Think about the span of Silas's 86 years. He was born into a world of horse-drawn wagon retreats and lived to see a modernized, industrialized nation fighting the Second World War. By the 1940 census, the government was tracking Silas's education level. The scrambling frontier had been entirely replaced by a structured, formalized society. Which brings us back to Bea Schwammel's 1962 letter. She spent her time chasing family rumors of secret Indian blood and a legendary missing family Bible. She never found either. The documented record offers no legends, only a ledger of births, a failed land grab in Oklahoma, and a photograph of a grandfather slaughtering a hog. The Boyds' legacy is defined by relentless, unglamorous endurance. Their survival, repeated by thousands of families like them, provided the stability necessary for the nation to expand.